So, today I'm going to change my strings, and I thought I'd share some of the process with you so that you know what to do when you change your strings, if you've never done it before, or if you just want a little refresher on how that works. So, I've got my cello with the old strings. I've got my set of new strings. I have a graphite pencil. I have a metronome that will give me an A later when I want to tune the cello back up. I've got my cleaning rag because I'll take the opportunity to wipe off my cello too while I'm at it. And I've got my bow for later in case, or not just in case, for later so that I can tune up my cello as well with the bow. And as you can tell, I'm on the ground. I like to do this on the ground because it's a little bit safer, I feel, for the cello. You can also do it like on a bed or on a table that you've put a soft blanket on, something like that. Just make sure that your workspace is clean, that it's soft, that your cello won't get any bumps or scratches when you put it down on the ground or pick it up, because you will be moving it around a fair bit during this process. So since I have an ergonomic peg, I have the key that fits right in there to tune it up, because I'm going to be changing all 4 strings. So, most important thing is never, ever, ever, ever take all 4 strings off at the same time. I will be going one by one. I don't think it really matters which order you go in. The point is you only take one string off at a time. You tighten that one back up before you move on to the next string. And the biggest reason for that is that your sound post underneath your bridge, it's kept in place partly by the weight of the strings pushing down against the table of your cello and through the bridge, basically. And that's part of how your sound post stays in place. And if your sound post is not perfectly fitted, or if your cello is at a point where it's kind of on the large side, it's swelled up or thinned out, either way, if the sound post isn't fitting super snugly there, then it might fall down once the pressure from the bridge leaves your cello top. So whatever you do, never take off more than one string at a time if you can help it. Alright, I'm also going to take off my mute that I've had here on the cello. Put that to the side. It will only get in the way as we go. Okay, I'm going to start with the A string. It's a good place to start. So just go ahead and grab the peg and loosen it up. And this is the fun part. You just kind of gently pull it out. I like to kind of keep my hand here on the peg so that I twist it slowly out so that the string doesn't go flying all everywhere. And here's my old string. Gonna wrap it up. I've seen people make projects out of these where they either kind of knit them into new stuff or they braid them into necklaces and bracelets and things like that. I've also used them for hanging up pictures on the wall, so you can see if you can find a great way of using those. A lot of times if the string is okay, like if I'm changing my string but it's not broken yet and it doesn't sound too terrible, I'll keep it as a backup string. That way I don't have to be buying too many sets of backup strings all at the same time. So now we've got this entire area free. Go ahead and rub off the fingerboard where the string has been, because I'll never be able to get to it as well as I do now, including by the bridge, because that's going to have gotten full of rosin. And now I will do the next step that I hope I won't forget later, and add a little bit of graphite in the groove of your bridge there. I'll bring the cello up closer. So there's a little groove where the cello goes, where the string goes on the bridge. You can add just a tiny bit of pencil on that groove. That kind of helps to avoid the buildup of rosin that will make your string stick on the top of your bridge there and give you trouble tuning. So now we've got to get my new strings. Make sure you get the right string. So this is the A string. I leave them in the packages so that I don't mess them up. Take the string out, unwrap it, and straighten it out. So here we've got this bit here, that's on the tailpiece, where the string can kind of hook in. I'll zoom in for this. You can hook the little metal part into your string. Don't worry too much about trying to line it up on your bridge yet, because first we have to move over to our peg. So your peg, if you've never taken it out, this might be a fun time to see what that's like. It's just a stick with a hole in it. Pay attention to where the hole is, because that's where you're going to have to put the other end of the string. So put it in a little bit so that part of it is sticking out. So you can see there's a little bit of the string sticking out there, and then you're going to wrap it up from there. We're going to go slow and steady. I'm going to come up nice and nice. So you can see that the tip of that string is inside, and then we're going to wrap it around. And I'll do this twice. I'll do this once for you and once for real. I'm going to wrap it around nice and slow. First going on the opposite side, the far side of the peg, at least once, if not twice, and then back on the other side. So I don't know if you can hear that. Wait, I'm gonna leave it. We'll leave it kind of out still because I want to get a nice tight wrap, without the string getting like too wide in there. We want a nice, beautiful, orderly wrap of the string if you can help it. So now I'm going to redo this a little bit so that I can get it a little bit nicer. And unlike guitars, we don't tend to like cut off the bit that was extra, so please don't try to do that unless for whatever reason your strings are actually the wrong size for your instrument. So if you notice, this bit fell out again, so before you tighten too much, first put it back in there. And then the trick you can use is kind of keep your finger hooked into your string there, and then slowly but surely tighten up while watching out for your beautiful string twisting, so that we've got enough tension that the string stays there. So now I'm going to check the top of my instrument. So now we've got the string is wrapped up in there rather nicely. If it gets stuck underneath one of the other strings, you can try to move it out of the way. If you absolutely need to, because it got horribly stuck, you can loosen one other string and fix that there. Otherwise, just kind of keep tightening up. And this is my most important trick: keep plucking. When you're tuning your cello with peg, listen all the time. So now's a good time, especially if you don't remember what the A is supposed to sound like, to get a reference A. This is where I'm heading to. I'm gonna tune kind of to it, but I won't try very hard because we're gonna have to repeat this process like 20 times. Remember, when you're tuning your pegs, you turn them like this, but you also turn them diagonally into the cello. You have to be both pushing in and twisting at the same time, like a screw. Like when you take a screw and you screw it into something, you have to be pushing at the same time as you are turning. Otherwise, it just kind of turns and turns, but it doesn't actually go in and stick. So if anyone has ever had trouble with their peg not sticking, that's usually the first thing I ask you to do. Make sure that you're really pushing in a lot while you turn. A lot of people will also try to turn and then push. That doesn't work, and it can damage your peg box. So especially if you're strong enough to actually make it work, it's not very good for your peg box. We're not hammering these in here. We're twisting them in and wiggling them so that they really get stuck inside. If you're having a lot of trouble with that, go to your violin maker, go to the violin shop, ask for help. It's a lot easier to explain in person and to figure out what exactly is going on with your particular peg. I would do that and talk to a real person before you go and buy any like peg sticky products or whatever. I've never had to use them before. I know that some people have, But do talk to somebody before buying stuff that may or may not actually solve your problem. So we had our A. So see, I'm going really slow and wiggling my way up. And if it's not staying, then take it back out a little bit and start again wiggling a little bit more inside. That cracking sound is what we're looking for. It's everything getting nice and stuck. Cool. It was actually like quite spot on there. You don't need it to be that spot on. You can just tune it to almost A. Because again, we're going to take all the rest of them out in a second and you're going to have to repeat the process anyway. So I'll put on a different camera angle for the next string. Alright, so new angle. This is my old A string. I'm going to put it in the old A string bag and I'm going to go ahead and write used on it. And today's more or less date, which is now. Alright, now put that away, pencil away, and we will move on with D string. So I use Yargar strings because I've done so for a very, very long time, and I always liked the way they sounded on my instrument. But I only use the A and D with Yargar. The C and G strings I have Spirochlor because I like the way those sound. A lot of people will use Larson strings for their cellos, for upper strings. So there we go, taking that out, wrapping the old string up. And putting it back in the bag and giving it a name. Very good idea to keep your strings separate, your old ones and your new ones, because sometimes it's not that easy to find out which one is the right one. Okay, so same idea. On the inside, and then turn a couple times on the outside, and then back in the inside. That was string number 2. Let's go. So now we have my Spirochlor strings. We have C and D in a cute little box. I'm going to continue going in order. And I forgot to put graphite on my D string, so I'm going to do that too. Loosen it a little bit and add the graphite. So you can see that. So it's just in the right in the groove there. Just go ahead and draw some graphite into the groove. And then you're done. And then I'll put my string back on. So now I'm using my A string to help me tune. And I'm plucking all the while. anytime it slips down, then I bring the peg down a little bit and then push it back up, all the while pushing in so that it's going into my peg box. All right, then time for the G string. Again, always double check your package. It should say the string that you want to do. So make sure it says G string when you're going to do the G string. Loosen it up. Wrap up the old string. Put it in the new bag. And give it a name. And a date. Alright, we'll do the graphite right away. Pencil right in that groove. This time I'm just going to go ahead and skip putting the string in the tailpiece, which you can also do. And go ahead and start wrapping it around. Remember, on the G string, you're wrapping the other way. You have to go towards the outside. And keeping a little tension here on the hand so that your string is always kind of tight will help you make a cleaner, tighter wrapping. So once you've gotten a little bit tight, go back and stick that middle part into the groove here. Make sure it's firmly put in there, but don't worry too much because from the act of tightening your strings, I promise, there will be plenty of pressure to get that string in the right place. So see, it fell out of the groove there. Always double check that you're in the right groove because those things can happen. So I'm pushing and turning in, right? Always both things. And if I pluck like this and allow it to ring a bit, so you can already, if you can already hear it, the strings have all gone down in pitch. I'm not going to worry about that yet. I still have one string to put in. So this one is the one where I've got my ergonomic peg. So same thing, hold the string, loosen it up slowly but surely so that it doesn't go flying. And I like to hold it again just so it doesn't fly anywhere it's not supposed to. Remove it here gently. And same idea, pick it back up, roll it up. Take the new string out of the package, put the old string in the package, and give a date. And don't forget, pencil in your groove here. You can put a lot, and if it bothers you and it gets on your bridge too much, you can erase it with a proper eraser. All right. So same idea, gotta find my hole in there. So just a little bit sticking out the side, and that's what you're going to do when you put it inside. Okay, so we put the peg back in, sticking out just a little bit, and then wrap carefully. And slowly and neatly so that preferably by the time you get to the end of the winding, you're right in line with where your string's going to have to go. So before you get to the end, make sure to place your string back in there. So make sure it's all the way inside here. And if it doesn't quite fit, don't worry too much. Usually with the pressure, it will work out. And hold it like this while you place it. And again. So now everything is terribly out of tune. I'm gonna do this next standing. My cello has new strings on, but terribly out of tune. So we're going to double check our A again. And it's quite close. So I'm going to firstly check if my fine tuners are very far in or not. So I'm going to loosen a lot of my fine tuners just so I have more space to tune up later, especially in the first few days of your new strings. You'll definitely have a lot of tuning up to do, more than you're going to have tuning down. So one last little thing that I forgot to film earlier, but I did do it afterwards. If your bridge, after all the tuning, ends up just a little bit off the table, so if you'll notice there might be a little gap behind one of the feet, you can very, very gently put all of your fingers between the strings. It will almost always be tipping towards the pegs. If not, you might want to loosen your strings and put your bridge slightly straight again. And again, if you're loosening your strings to move your bridge, loosen them maximum 1/2 step down. But if you have your fingers set up in your grooves here between the strings, you can get a nice good grip and then pull onto the bridge to straighten it out. Again, same thing, if you really can't move it, you can lower your strings a little bit with the pegs or with the fine tuners, and that should allow you to be able to straighten the bridge back up. Bridges, by the way, are made so that this part here is slightly curved back, but this part here, the back part, is perfectly straight. So if you want to measure anything, this back part should be straight and at a 90-degree angle to the point where it touches the cello. If you have any doubts about your bridge being now out of place, do go see your violin maker. The bridge positioning is very important and has a lot to do with the sound posts and what's inside the cello. And without special tools and a good amount of knowledge, you won't be able to fix that all by yourself. So find a violin maker in your area to help you out. Don't worry too much about taking your fine tuners out by accident. You can kind of see underneath of the tailpiece where the screws go down to. So try and make sure you don't turn them out all that much. But if you have plenty of space for turning back in, it should look a little bit like this. You've got about, I guess for me, it's just like a little fingernail of space there. I've got pretty small hands, so it might even be a little bit less than a fingernail for you. Hopefully by this point though, you kind of know what your fine tuners usually look like. And it doesn't matter really so much either way, because if you ever run out of space there to turn in, to go up higher in pitch, then you'll bring it down, or you'll twist them out, and then you'll tune up with the peg, and then you can be able to have your space that's necessary. Maybe I'll do a video on that some other time. Alright, so now we're back down to low because I tuned down with the fine tuners. So I'm going to pluck and get it as close as possible to what I want. Plucking, and then continue. So that's where it slipped. And that's totally part of the process. So the only thing that you really need to worry about is if you turn the peg too fast without listening, and you go way above what the pitch is supposed to be. The strings are not built for that much pressure, and they will snap. So if you've ever tried to change your strings and your string snapped, most likely, if you didn't really pay attention to the tuning, you may have messed it up yourself. But if you did pay attention to the tuning, then it could have been a manufacturing issue. The strings are made with machines, and the machines can't test for everything. And so yeah, sometimes your string will be messed up because they give you a faulty string. But that's okay, most of the time you can actually get in touch with the company and ask for a refund. Or a new string really, and they'll send you a new one, and it's very unlikely that your second string will also break. If that does, then maybe you do want to switch companies, but if it's a reputable company, like Larson, like Sparkor, like Jagar, and like many others, Eva Parastri, etc., in like a medium to high price range, you should be okay, and you should be able to trust that they're going to have decent quality strings. Alright, so now I need my little key. now the cello is again even closer to being perfectly tuned. This is the point where I'm going to take out my bow. And I'll continue doing this standing just because it's more fun. So I'll bring my unpin out. And then I mentioned the thing about how you're putting the graphite in to help prevent your string from getting stuck. If your string is kind of getting stuck, which mine, it has the little leather piece to help protect the bridge there and to help protect the strings, and so sometimes I do have to press on the A string to bring the pitch up higher if I've turned up and nothing happened, or you can pull on the string to kind of stretch it out downwards. In the beginning, when you've got brand new strings, stretching it like this will probably make a huge difference. I wouldn't recommend doing that. I don't think that it actually makes much of a difference in terms of how quickly the strings break in or not. You're going to need a couple of days for your strings to break in. You should play your cello every one of those days, and you should tune it as often as you can. Many times a practice session in the beginning, and then you'll notice that the strings will hold faster and faster the longer you use them and the more you've managed to tune them in between. And within a few days, they should be relatively stable, and within a couple of weeks, they should be sounding quite good. I noticed for now that my G and C strings are quite metallic sounding. That's very normal for my Spire Core strings. Every time I've gotten new Spire Core strings, that's how they start. Within a week or so, that should be gone, the metallic kind of aftertaste of those strings. And I love the strings because they tend to last for a really long time. So that's the reason why I put up with the slightly metallic sound in the first couple of weeks, because then I get an amazing sound for the next several weeks. Which is why it's a really good idea if you're trying out new strings to try them out already broken in, which sometimes your violin maker will be able to do for you. If they have a few extra strings there that have been put on other cellos, then they can put that on your cello, and it won't be the brand new string, and so it won't be unbroken. Alright, so we've had the A. Now I'm going to just tune my cello through. So that's quite low. I'm going to use my peg again. And now for that, I want to lower my cello down. Because actually, everything that's far up above your chest, you probably won't be able to tune as effectively. Anything that's close to the region of your chest, just because of the way our bodies are built, you'll be a lot stronger here. So if you ever try opening jars like way up here, you probably won't manage. And the same thing with your cello, if you're tuning it up here. It's very difficult to do. Maybe if you have really strong forearm muscles, you manage, but I don't. I leave it down here where I'm strong. So now it's a little bit too high, which is okay, because I'm going to go ahead and lower it a little bit with the fine tuners and give it a little stretch. See how much closer that got. And by the way, with the stretching of the strings, if you stretch to the next string, you can't overdo it. Yeah? If you try to stretch like way out of the range of the next string, so like I only stretched the D string until it like touched the G string, I wouldn't do it more than that, because then there's no guarantee that it won't go flying off your bridge, and that might be dangerous for the health of your cello, your string, and yourself. So now I've got it pretty much in tune. We'll go on to the next string. It actually sounds really nice. Could be a little lower. That one I tried to tune it up, but it sort of went down. So I'm going to go ahead and use my peg tuner again. So that's about as high as I would go. I'm almost a half step above the tuning of the string. Don't go any further than that, because then you're running the risk of making your string pop just because you over tightened it. So So just to get kind of close, I pluck. When I want to get properly in tune, so that was round one. Then we do another round. We check with our A. And once your A is set, then go ahead and tune through your other strings. And by the way, if you like to use a tuning app for doing this, by all means, use a tuning app. This process takes long enough as it is. Go ahead and use whatever works best for you. And then work on training your ears some other time when you have no strings to change. Alright, that's pretty good for now. So I would play on it for a little bit and tune it again in about 20 minutes of playing, or whenever it starts to bother me. And then just keep practicing, keep tuning, keep playing, and enjoy your new strings. They should be sounding lovely within a couple of days. And if not, then maybe you want to consider getting different kinds of strings for your cello. That's about it. Hope that was helpful, and hope I'll be able to edit this into something that you can watch in just a couple of minutes. But maybe I'll let you know how long the process took all in all.